So we'll begin our 10B notes by adding radicals. Uh, like radicals are radical expressions that have the same type of radicand. So remember, a radicand is the number inside the radical. When adding or subtracting radicals, only like radicals can be combined by adding their coefficients. So this kind of ties together with all the other math that you know. We can only add fractions that have the same denominator, so a like denominator. We can only add variable terms that have like terms. So we can also only add like radicals. So here is an example of like radicals. These both have a radical of 2, so like radicals. So we have 5 radical 2 plus 3 radical 2. Now I kind of gave a picture of it over here. Here's the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 radical 2's. And then 3 radical 2's would look like, there's my 3. And so all together I have 5 plus 3. I'm going to have 8 of those radical 2's. And that's how that would simplify. So just add 5 plus 3 to get 8. And then radical 2 is what you've got 8 of. These are unlike radicals because what's inside are different and I cannot combine them. So this is it on there. All right, so example 1, simplify each expression. So it's addition of radicals. So I'm going to look for like radicals. So you can see these two have the same radical, radical 6. I have 2 plus 5, which is going to give me 7 radical 6, and then plus 3 radical 7 is there on its own. Here, again, like radicals, here and here, both radical 10. So I have 3, take away 5, so that's going to leave me a negative 2 of those radical 10's, and then plus 4 radical 3. See, these all have radical 5, so they're all like terms. And note that here, if there is not a coefficient, what's it understood to be, do you think? That's right, that's an understood 1 right there. So I have 4 plus 1 is 5, then 5 minus 2 is 3 radical 5's. Same thing here, an understood 1 right here. So I have 2 subtract 3, 2 subtract 1 gives me 1 radical 3. So I don't write 1 radical 3, I just write radical 3, and that's understood to be a 1 in front of that. All right, so now we want to make sure that each radical is simplified before combining. So if I looked at example 2, number A, they don't appear to be like terms, do they? A square root of 3 or a square root of 27, they're different. However, we know that square root of 27 is not simplified. So I want to break it up into the square root of 9 and the square root of 3. So here I'm going to have 2 radical 3. Square root of 9 is 3, and then radical 3. So once I simplify the square root of 27, I now have like terms, and I can add that and get 5 radical 3's. Example B, we'll have to do it for both of them. We have the square root of 4, square root of 5. So that's 2 radical 5. For 45, we have 9 and 5. So that's going to be 3 radical 5. So this was a minus in the middle. So I have 2 subtract 3, which is going to give me a negative, understood 1. I'm not going to write that 1, square root of 5. See, a little bit, one step harder. I'm going to take the 18 and I'm going to break it up into 9 and 2. And I have a 3 in front of it. So that's going to be 3 times 3 radical 2. So that's 9 radical 2. Minus, and then I have my 6. And then 50, of course, is 25 times 2. So that's going to be 6 times 5 radical 2. So that's going to be 30 radical 2. So now I have like terms, both radical 2. So 9 subtract 30 is going to be a negative 21 radical 2. And D, well, I have a fraction in there, don't I? 55 is 5 times 11, but neither one of those are perfect, so this does not simplify. However, I see over here that I have a fraction, and I know I cannot have a fraction. So this is actually going to be the square root of 5 over the square root of 11. I'm going to rationalize it. So I'm going to multiply it by the clever 1, square root of 11 over square root of 11. And that will give us, we got this 44 here. And that's going to give me 5 square root of 11 over, I'm sorry, this should be square root of 55. So that's going to be square root of 55 over square root of 11 times square root of 11 is square root of 121, which is 11. And I'm just thinking right now that we really haven't gotten to this yet. So perhaps you'll understand it better when I get to a later problem. 44 and 11, so now I have the square root of 55 here, subtract. These will cancel. 11 will go into 44 4 times, leave me with a 4 here. So I've got the square root of 55 minus 4 radical 55. I've got the same denominator, so I'm going to subtract 1. So remember, there's that understood 1 right there. So 1 subtract 4 gives me negative 3 radical 55. So we'll pause now, and we'll pick up on the next video.